I'm Eric Shawn. Time now for a Sunday House Call.
And I'm Marthel Neville. Welcome to you. And joining us is Dr. David Samadi, Chairman and Professor of Urology at Lenox Hill Hospital and Chief of Robotic Surgery.
And Dr. Mark Siegel, Professor of Medicine at NYU's Langone Medical Center, is also the author of The Inner Pulse, Unlocking the Secret Code of Sickness and Health, which is something we do here every Sunday on Sunday House Call.
Good to see you.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy
4th of July, of course.
Absolutely. Well, lots of annoying bugs and pests buzzing around this season as we're out there picnicking, etc. From ticks to mosquitoes to jellyfish. So what's the best way to keep the sting out of summer? Dr. Samadi, I start with you.
Happy 4th of July. I hope you're enjoying the weekend, and we're going to see a lot of people that are going to be out there in parks, in near lakes, etc. So we want them to be aware of this. By the way, this is not a killer segment. You know, we've talked last week about high blood pressure and heart disease. That kills about 600,000 people a year. We see car crashes, thousands of people die. We're talking about few numbers, hundreds of people that may get into trouble with West Nile virus or mosquitoes. You recently talked about Zika virus, etc. You know, when you talk about mosquitoes, one of the biggest risk factors is stagnant water. When you see water sitting around, you have mosquitoes. Obviously, we've talked about this. You want to make sure that you cover your long sleeves, long pants, making sure that if you're at home, use air conditioner, use the screen. And, you know, these mosquito repellents actually work well. If you're not asthmatic, if you're not allergic to this, use them, and it's perfectly fine. Talk about ticks. If you're going to be out in woods and you're going to be walking through, that's exactly right. Always look for those ticks. And the typical Lyme disease that we talk about, 25,000 reported cases in 2014, you're going to have the bullseye red rash that you would find. And the way to do this is not to just get rid of the tick. You use a tweezer, and very gently you make sure that you take it off and use alcohol to clean it up. And a lot of times when you treat it with antibiotics, you do very well.
You got to do if you've got kids, you got to do a tick check every night. That's what we used to do.
Absolutely. On yourself and the dogs,
yourself, make sure you don't have these little tiny...
Especially the areas you're not expecting.
But would that rash show up immediately if you're bitten by a tick?
Not immediately, over the next couple of days, but that's only 60% of the time. That's called a bullseye rash, Arthel, where literally the inside of it is hollow and the outside is red. It's a bullseye rash, but you see it about 60% of the time. Also, people say, should I get my blood titer checked? Right away, it's too soon. It's going to be negative right at the beginning. It takes weeks before it turns positive. So we have to make a decision whether to treat. A point that David just made, which is important, is if you don't get that whole tick out of there and you're leaving parts in, it's much more of a risk of Lyme disease, and I'm more likely to treat. Also, deer fencing, get it around your house. That's important. Spray against ticks, wear the long sleeve clothing, and what you just started with Eric said, you got to search for the bumps.
Well, the other carrier is also the dogs. Maybe, you know, the dogs are another carrier.
Dogs carry deer ticks. That's right. They fall off of deer. The other thing I wanted to bring up is this issue of sea lice. There's a big jellyfish epidemic going on in this country right now. And what happens is that the tiny tendrils that come off of the jellyfish are stinging people. There's allergies to them. People get out of the water, they got these stingers in them. What you got to do is you got to try to wash it with warm water, not ice water. Ice water makes it worse. You use like a credit card to get the tendrils out. You use vinegar. Vinegar works really, really well for this. And then calamine lotion. That's how you treat the stingers from jellyfish. If it starts to erupt and you get a big bad rash, you go to see a doctor.
Can you have a real severe, reaction, allergy from these jellyfish?
You can.
Absolutely.
Number one, make sure you use Dr. Siegel's credit card to get rid of those, not mine.
Oh, the other thing is, over there.
This sea lice actually is hidden under your bathing suit, and you may not see it.
That's like that rash sometimes, right?
And it gives you a rash, and believe it or not, even adults can go through a very painful rash. So, as Mark mentioned, you don't want to use ice. You want to make sure that you use warm water to wash it away and wash the bathing suit.
So these things can be really harmful.
It can happen.
Especially if you have an allergy.
Yeah.
You know, any of the things we've been talking about here, you could have an allergy to. You could be allergic to mosquito bites, and you get this huge welt. If you start to get short of breath, or you start to get really fatigued, or you get a fever, or the thing starts to blow up, get to the emergency room.
That's the key. Don't ignore the symptoms, because a lot of times when you see the doctor, and this debate, I mean, he knows as a medical doctor better, but when it comes to Lyme disease, now more doctors tend to treat this with oral antibiotics just in case, so they don't have all the symptoms of joint pain and so on and so forth down the road.
And that's hard to get rid of, this Lyme disease.
If it stays in your system, it's a disaster.
The later you diagnose it, and we just saw a story about Chris Christopherson saying he had it years later when he was forgetting everything. You get to the point where you have arthritis or heart disease or dementia from it. It's very hard to reverse at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is there a cure to just get rid of it, Lyme disease?
Yes, antibiotics work.
Yeah, but I mean,
antibiotics work. The earlier you get it, the more chance you're going to cure it.
And something else I want to mention, which is yellow jackets and bees. People may not know that they're allergic to them until you get stung. I was stung by yellow jacket, and my glands in my neck and groin kind of swelled a little bit. I called the doctor. They're like, what? The local doctor was like, you got to come right in. And then you get the shots for a number of years. And I never knew that I was allergic until I actually got stung. And that can be serious.
So then what if you're a parent? I don't know, just asking the doctor. So what if you're a parent and you're not sure? Can you carry those, what is it, epinephrine?
An EpiPen.
Pens around?
Yes, but the likelihood of something like that happen, that somebody will go in a shock, you would have probably more like peanut allergies than getting one of these to really get you to that point.
If you know you have a history of it, then you should have a history of it, and then take an antihistamine right away. You can take a Claritin or a Benadryl right away.
Carry it with you, a Benadryl, and they said carry an EpiPen wherever you go. But my point is, you may not even know that you have it, and suddenly, whammo.
Get to the emergency room. If you start to have a problem breathing or swell up or anything,
wear light color shirts, a nice bathing suit, take his credit card, and enjoy 4th of July. Don't get too stressed out about this.
Light colored shirt for mosquitoes, but ticks love light colors. And by the way,
then what do you do?
That's why we have the credit card.
You take his credit card and you go to a restaurant.
Look, if you're going to be in the jungle and you're going to be surrounded by or exposed to the ticks, you want to make sure that you put in your pants and your socks, you cover them, long sleeves, and again, inspect for any of those. And use repellents. A lot of times you may
wear long sleeve clothing. I agree with that.
Enjoy the barbecue, guys.
Did you just say whammo?
Yeah.
Use those citronella candles, too. You know those things?
No. After this segment, between the jellyfish and
you're going to stay indoors?
And the bees and the I'm staying watching the Fox News Channel. I'm not going to even grill. I'm not going to barbecue. I'm spending all this weekend inside
We'll bring it to you.
Watching this channel.
I'll bring you a hot dog. Yeah, let's bring hamburgers.
But use mustard because it is lower calories.
We'll bring it to you.
There you go.